It is the last week of July, and your lawn still has a chance. Do you know what is coming for it in the next 30 days? What you do in the next 2 weeks decides whether your lawn survives August or becomes the worst-looking yard on the block by Labor Day. That is not an exaggeration. It arrives the same way every year, and most lawns are not ready for it. That is the window you want, and most homeowners miss it entirely. What happens to a lawn in August is not bad luck, and it is not poor soil. It is the convergence of 3 separate stresses arriving at the same moment: heat, drought, and fungal pressure hitting a grass plant that was never prepared to carry that weight. The standard advice treats August like July with higher temperatures. The lawn pays for that assumption in brown patches, dead crowns, and bare soil that takes a full season to recover. The preparation window is the last 2 weeks of July. What you do in that window decides what your lawn looks like on the other side of August, not what you do in August. I have been growing things in this country for over 30 years. First vegetables and fruit trees, then the lawn around them, all of it guided by the same principle my father, Hiroshi, applied to his rows in Nagano. Read the season that is coming, not the season you are standing in. He called it preparing the ground before the ground needs it. Every Japanese farming household I knew growing up operated that way. The soil was worked for the future harvest, not the current one. Your lawn is asking you to think the same way right now. Now, why August kills lawns, and there is a specific reason the standard advice gets this wrong. Bluegrass, ryegrass are already under thermal stress by mid-July. Their root systems begin to contract and pull back from the upper soil layer when ground temperatures stay above 90 degrees Fahrenheit for more than a week. Warm season grasses, Bermuda, Zoysia, St. Augustine, handle heat better, but they carry their own vulnerability. They enter a period of rapid, shallow growth in July that leaves them poorly anchored for the dry weeks ahead. Both grass types arrive at August in a weakened position. The question is how weakened. The answer depends almost entirely on what you do with the soil before the heat peaks. Soil compaction is the first problem. That has walked across your lawn from April through July has compressed the top 2 to 3 inches of soil. Compacted summer soil can reduce water infiltration by more than half, a well-established result in turf research. The water you are putting down runs off or evaporates before it reaches the root zone. The roots are being starved of moisture at the exact moment the heat is pulling moisture out of every leaf surface above them. Core aeration corrects this. Not spike aeration. Spike aeration pushes soil sideways and increases compaction around each hole. Honestly, just skip it. Spike aeration does not open the soil. It presses the soil around each hole tighter. It compresses the very layer you are trying to open, and it makes the infiltration problem worse through the entire growing season. Core aeration removes a plug of soil roughly 3 inches deep and ½ inch wide every 4 to 6 inches across the lawn. The holes allow water, oxygen, and whatever amendment you apply next to move directly into the root zone. Renting a core aerator runs about $35 to $40 for a half day, or many hardware stores will do the job for a flat $25 to $35 if you would rather not do it yourself. The ideal window for pre-August aeration is the 3rd week of July. Give the plugs 4 to 5 days to break down on the surface. Then water the lawn deeply. Aeration first, then water. Not the other way. The second problem is invisible until the damage is already done. Grub larvae, the larval stage of Japanese beetles and masked chafers, hatch in July and begin feeding on grass roots through August. That is the damage you cannot see from the surface until it is too late to stop it. A grub count of more than 10 larvae per square foot of soil will sever enough roots to cause the grass to detach from the ground entirely. You can check by gripping a section of brown or weak turf at the base and pulling firmly. If it peels back like a loose rug, grubs are underneath. That is the result you do not want to find, but it is better to find it now than in September. If grubs are present, the treatment window is narrow. Preventive grub control applied in late June or early July targets newly hatched larvae near the soil surface. By late July, the larvae have moved deeper and are harder to reach. If you are in the last week of July, you are at the edge of the effective window. Apply a product containing chlorantraniliprole, that is the active ingredient to look for on the bag, water it in immediately, and do not miss this window, and the problem waits underground until next season. Bag covering 5,000 square feet runs about $18 to $25. Wear gloves when handling and applying this product, and wash your hands afterward. Keep children and pets off the treated area until it has been watered in and the lawn surface is dry, usually a few hours. If it contacts skin, rinse with water. If it gets in eyes, flush with water for several minutes and call a doctor if irritation continues. Store any unused product in its original container, sealed and out of reach of children. If this is the kind of thing you wish someone had told you years ago, that is what this channel is. One method, once a week, tested for 30 years before I ever say it out loud. Nothing sold to you. Subscribe if you want the next one. Thatch, the compressed layer of dead grass material between the soil surface and the green growth, becomes a moisture barrier when it exceeds half an inch in depth. Push a pencil into your lawn at an angle until it meets resistance. If the thatch layer is thicker than the eraser, dethatch before you aerate. The sequence matters. Dethatch, then aerate, then the lawn is open to receive what comes next. Tell me in the comments, which of these preparation steps did you already know, and which one surprised you? I read every single one. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know exactly what to apply, when to apply it, and what to stop doing before August arrives. That last one, what to stop, is the adjustment most lawns never get. Now the feeding question, and there is a real error most people repeat every year. High nitrogen fertilizers in heat-stressed conditions push rapid top growth. The plant directs energy toward new leaf tissue at the exact moment it needs to be directing energy downward, toward root depth and cellular water retention. The lawn looks briefly greener, then it collapses. The pre-August feeding formula is different. What you are looking for on the bag is a low first number, and NPK, that stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The three numbers printed on every fertilizer bag, and you want the first number low and the third number high. Potassium governs cellular water pressure inside the grass plant. A grass blade with adequate potassium holds its internal moisture under heat stress. A grass blade without it wilts and scorches within days of a heat spike. Apply a slow-release fertilizer with a ratio in the range of 5:0 to 15, or a similar low-nitrogen, high-potassium formulation, in the third week of July. Water it in lightly. The cost for a standard 5,000 square foot lawn runs about $22 to $28. What not to apply? Any quick-release synthetic nitrogen product, any weed and feed combination, and any product with high phosphorus if your soil test shows adequate phosphorus levels. These push the wrong response at the wrong moment. Now, the watering method, and this is where most lawns either survive August or do not, frequent shallow watering, trains grass roots to stay in the upper 1 to 2 inches of soil. That layer heats past 100 degrees Fahrenheit on an August afternoon. Grass with shallow roots sitting in that zone for 2 weeks in a row will not recover until September, if it recovers at all. Deep, infrequent watering. 2 sessions per week, running each zone 45 to 60 minutes, draws roots downward toward soil layers that stay 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the surface. My father, Hiroshi, called it watering for the week ahead, not the day. He applied the same logic to his fruit trees in Nagano, standing at the base of each tree, with a hand on the bark to feel whether the soil underneath was still holding from the last deep water. I have done the same thing in this backyard for 30 years. I have learned not to rush it. The roots went where the water was deepest. That made the trees drought tolerant. Grass works the same way. The correct schedule before August: 2 waterings per week, in the early morning before 7 each zone, running long enough to push water 6 inches into the soil. A soil moisture meter, about $15 at any garden center, removes the guesswork. Push the probe 6 inches into the soil, 12 hours after watering. If the reading shows dry at that depth, extend your runtime by 10 minutes per zone. Morning watering is not optional in August. Grass left wet overnight develops fungal disease. Gray leaf spot, brown patch, and dollar spot, fungal diseases already present in most soils, all spread through wet leaf surfaces during warm nights. Wet leaves at dawn dry by mid-morning. Wet leaves at midnight stay wet until 6 in the morning and invite every fungal pathogen already present in your soil. This is the one adjustment that separates lawns that come out of August looking recovered from the ones that come out looking like gravel. Now the mowing height, and there is a simple adjustment here that costs nothing. Raise your mowing height by 1 full inch before August. For cool season grasses, fescue bluegrass, ryegrass, that means cutting at 3.5 to 4 inches. For warm season grasses, Bermuda, Zoysia, St. Augustine, 2 to 2.5 inches. Set it and leave it there. Walk away. Taller grass shades the soil surface, reduces soil temperature by several degrees, and slows evaporation from the root zone. The grass plant becomes an insulator for its own roots. A dull mower blade tears the grass rather than cutting it. Torn tissue desiccates faster, browns at the tips, and creates entry points for fungal infection. Sharpen or replace your blade before you make any of these mowing adjustments. The cut should be clean enough that you cannot see a ragged edge when you look closely at the blade tip. Cut no more than 1/3 of the blade height at any single mowing. In peak heat, that may mean mowing more frequently at a higher setting rather than cutting low every 10 days. If the lawn looks tired after a cut, you took too much. Aerated soil, treated root zone, correct feeding, deep water training, adjusted mowing height. That is the preparation sequence. The lawn does not come from luck. It comes from what you do before August arrives. Each step reinforces the next. The total investment runs about $75 to $90 in materials and rental, and half a day of attention. More if grubs require treatment. The difference between the two lawns at the end of August is not the weather. Both lawns receive the same heat, the same drought, the same fungal pressure. The difference is what was done before any of it arrived. Next time, I am going to show you how to read your lawn in September, which patches need overseeding, which need soil correction, and which need to be left alone.